This week's Real Find takes the idea of repurposing in an organic direction. Birch and Willow uses items from nature to make beautiful lamps and light fixtures. This light fixture looks like a nest, but instead of an egg, it has a bulb inside. The slogan of the Boston company Birch and Willow is Nature Illuminated. It blends owner Katherine Ahern's art and business background with her love of trees.
Birch and Willow is a bringing together of all of those parts, where we get to make wonderful lighting fixtures, the most important part of which is the light and shadow that they cast.
The relationship between light and shadow has fascinated Katherine since she was a child.
The aesthetic of shadow patterns that you see with light filtering through trees, through shrubbery, the patterns that it makes on the ground.
These are called roost pendants. They range in price from $650 to $2,000, depending on the size. Katherine says they're mostly hung over dining room or kitchen tables for dramatic effect.
In a darkened room, you would end up with shadows spilling all over the ceiling, the walls, and the edges of your tabletop.
All of the fixtures are custom designed from sustainable materials found in nature.
They are all fall into the category of exotic or invasive vines or exotic and invasive trees. So they tend to be very good at beating out the indigenous species.
We went to Tiverton, Rhode Island with Katherine to see how she collects her raw material. There's a tree hidden under the fast-growing grapevines Katherine's cutting.
And hopefully we will get the vines off of it in time, that it's well enough that it will become upright, lean back toward the sun, and it will become a healthy tree again.
This tree used to be covered in vines, but it's doing much better. When cutting, Katherine looks for vines that are old enough to be dark and woody instead of green and raw.
Grapevine's a wonderful material for us to work with. It has these wonderful little curlicue things. These are actually used for it to attach itself to trees when it grows up over them. But they add a wonderful decorative element to our lighting fixtures. The other thing is it has a wonderful red color.
The vines are very supple when she collects them. If one dries out before she uses it, she soaks it in water. She never has a problem finding material or enthusiasm for the work.
I love being outdoors and being able to see what's available when I go to collect vines. And if I stayed at my studio all the time, I would miss this part.
When Katherine's done collecting, she brings the vines back to her Boston studio, where she and her talented team can work on them. Artist David Fallon likes working with the vines and branches.
It kind of reminds me a lot about nature and what birds and animals make out of their own habitats.
The light fixtures start as a frame that is glued and tied to make it strong.
These are these vines that we collect in Rhode Island, and we start cutting parts off. I've been doing it for so long I can get pretty much an idea what the length of the size I want.
When David adds vines to the frame, he backlights it so he can see the shadows that are created.
We start inserting stuff in to block some of the light. We don't want to block all the light. We just want to give it so you can see some of the light, but you don't see the light bulb itself.
Once the vines are in, the piece is flame-proof using a special solution. An aluminum backplate with the wiring and bulbs is put on before it's done. There's one final environmental benefit to the fixtures. Katherine calls it cradle-to-grave recycling.
When, at some point, you decide that you no longer would like to have the fixture, or sometime in the future, you can take our fixtures, and almost all of it could go into a compost and be recycled.
Katherine is glad more people are looking to companies like Birch and Willow for both beauty and sustainable, eco-friendly design.
This is a very exciting moment for us. We've been plugging away here for nearly 11 years, and the world seems to have come around to meet us.
The phone number for Boston-based Birch and Willow is 617-423-3437, and the website is birchandwillow.com. There's a new light. This week's Real Find takes the idea of repurposing